Welcome to part 3 and the nail in the coffin of the Ariel school alien invasion. In the previous 2 videos, we showed how everything here was f***ed from the start. The guidelines on how to interview children properly were not respected. We went through a bunch of the interviews and the reports made by the children are not the same. We took a look at a bunch of the drawings and the drawings are not the same. And we took a look at a bunch of the claims made by the MUFON investigator Cynthia Hind, and we saw how she distorted these children's testimonies. Oh, and how she also contradicted herself and blatantly just made shit up. Now, as you can see, I've really taken my time with the story and I've really dragged it out. And if you watched them the day that they were uploaded, you could probably attest to this. You probably didn't remember everything that was said in the first video. So just imagine how the interviews are when this Harvard superstar psychiatrist Johnny Mack comes to the school 77 days later and starts asking the children about what they had seen 2.5 months ago. Now sure, it's fair to say that something like this will be a memory that these children will have for the rest of their lives. If that's the case, then why did these stories change? Why did the reports evolve? Why did they tell Johnny Mack different things than they told Cynthia Hind? Now to me, it doesn't really matter that they changed their story, because I don't really believe that they saw an alien spaceship. But other people do. And children changing their stories is not good evidence that they actually saw an alien spaceship. But anyway, let's get this over with. Now recently in 2023, there was a Netflix documentary released about this story, and they focused entirely on Johnny Mack's investigation. Cynthia Hind was not mentioned at all in that documentary. So, according to Gideon Reid of the Skeptical Inquirer, any show centering Mack in its discussion of the Ariel school case should report all of the facts. It has to grapple with the idea that Mack's involvement might be the reason, as our antagonist said, the witnesses remain caught up in their bullshit. Now, Johnny Mack's credentials and fame undoubtedly brought intense media coverage to the topic and reduced the stigma for those making extraordinary claims. However, it also set a trend of appealing to authority, whether that be a Harvard professor then or former intelligence officer today, allowing evidence-free testimony to go unchallenged. In this 2023 Netflix documentary, there is a former pupil who appears to ridicule the whole thing. He claims that there was no spaceship, it was a shiny rock, and that there was no alien. It was made up. Now what Gideon seems to be referring to here is that one of the kids named Dallin admitted this in the 2023 Netflix documentary. And you can read more about what people think about this admission on this Reddit thread here, but I have to warn you, there's some pretty awful shit in there. One guy calls Dallin a crackhead with an agenda. But honestly, that's just the run-of-the-mill comment you get whenever you say this UFO story is fucking bullshit. I get shit like that all the time. People say, you're stupid, you know nothing, my uncle said it's all true, you're exhausting, and you're a plant. Yeah, because the government pays me to swear and make lame fucking jokes on the internet. But as is of course tradition, they offer no information that refutes anything anybody ever says against their precious paranormal stories. Thing is, I'm not afraid of being wrong. If there are ghosts and aliens out there, the burden is on you to prove it. If you can prove it, amazing. If you can find Bigfoot, amazing. If you can show us an alien spaceship, amazing. Just find the proof and show it, and we'll shut the fuck up. Until then, stop writing books where you make up all sorts of bullshit to make your stories more compelling. Okay? Yeah, okay. Now, if you think Dallin's lying, and you're more willing to believe that 61 children, not 62 anymore, Dallin said he didn't see anything. So if you're more willing to believe that 61 children saw a UFO from outer space and that aliens walked in slow motion in the grass for 15 minutes and then disappeared, but you're not willing to believe that Dallin saw a shiny rock and the whole thing was made up, because they were children, you know, then I don't really know what to tell you. Actually, I do, because Dallin is not the only one of these children to publicly admit to lying. According to Dr. Gillian Fernandez again, let us also mention, because this is almost never done, that some of the witnesses doubt the allegations of others or even confessed to having lied. For example, a child named Shelley said that she heard that Lisel and another guy whose name she forgot confessed to having lied to get to go on TV. She said that her and her sister were there when the kids saw the UFO, and they asked 100 times where they should look to see the UFO, and everyone was pointing miles away from them, and she says how the hell would they have been able to see it? Guess it's a good time to mention that translation is a bit fucked, but I suppose we get the idea. Gillis is French, by the way. Now, while going through the story, it seems that initially, Cynthia Hind was reporting stuff somewhat as it appeared to be, because she would mention some things that brings the story's credibility into question, which, in my opinion, shows that she was open to the idea of either reality. 1, it being a spaceship, 2, it being a misidentification. But then Cynthia just conveniently forgets to mention these things again, or just outright contradicts herself later. Now, I don't know why. I assume it's because she's out to find the story of the century, and she doesn't want to seem kooky. But honestly, there's nothing weird about looking into these stories. If you find them interesting, do your thing, no one cares. But there's a huge fucking difference between saying 62 children in Zimbabwe saw a UFO coming down from the sky and landing in the trees, and 62 children in Zimbabwe saw something and they didn't know what it was. Yes, people see shit that they can't identify all the time. That is normal. Saying it's an alien from outer space? How do you know that it's an alien from outer space? Let's just try keep these investigations down to earth, you know? But let's get back to these contradictions. Now, for example, Cynthia mentioned that the BBC had to go out and refilm because they filmed some obscuring light out there. She also mentioned that some of the kids could have been influenced by the UFOs on TV or the discussion about UFOs in the classroom earlier that week. This is important information that she would just fucking forget and never mention again. In fact, she would say the opposite. These children had no cultural influence of UFOs. So when you know that, how does it make sense that the more likely explanation is that these kids saw an alien spaceship instead of the more simple explanation that these kids maybe just saw a shiny rock or a car in the distance, and they didn't really know what it was, and then they just misinterpreted it as a UFO since they were talking about UFOs in the class that week, and UFOMania was running wild across Zimbabwe? Are we saying that kids don't have imaginations? Me and my friends, we did this all the time when we were young. In fact, I'll tell you one of the stories. It was fucking really stupid. But we had this really big park close to where we lived, and all the kids in the neighborhood would meet there every day and do whatever the fuck we did. Played soccer and climbed trees and shit like that. But at some point, one of the kids made up some shit about the house at the end of the street. And honestly, it was a creepy looking fucking house. But this thing looked so fucking run down, and the gate in the front was chained up with all these fucking chains and locks and shit like that. And we were all shit scared to get anywhere near this fucking house. One night, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was Halloween, but a group of us went up to this gate. We looked at the house, and we could hear growling. Obviously they were dogs, but we thought that they were werewolves. The story became that a witch lived there, and she had werewolves. It was a regular house with a regular person living there, and eventually it became like a vegetable market, and there was nothing weird about the place at all. Point of the story is, this is what kids do, man. Kids have fun and kids do shit like this. I know that some of my friends back then, if a camera crew came to us and said, tell us about these fucking werewolves, they would go on camera and tell some stories about fucking werewolves. Even though we know they were just dogs. They were Rottweilers specifically. They were very cute as well. See, even the Mystorian has an imagination. But let's not drag this video out, let's get back at it. So Donna Bassett, the Boston journalist, has already shown us why Johnny Mack's interviews are a big waste of time. But if you think that I'm biased against Johnny Mack, it would seem that Johnny Mack himself also thought that his interviews were a waste of time, because the John Mack Institute didn't even keep the full transcripts of all of these interviews. Charlie Weiser said, this is a remarkable oversight given the importance to humanity of contact with alien beings. Now, even though I think they're a waste of time, and John Mack also thought they were a waste of time, what was recorded and played in documentaries is important to smart people like Gillis Fernandez, who has pointed out that the second round of interviews done by John Mack are where the most sensational details will appear. All of a sudden now, there is a message from the aliens of protection and ecology of the planet that will be delivered to the children telepathically.
What is happening?
Well, you know, me and Gene, we really don't know what we're dealing with here, man. We just might blow the whole planet up, you know.
Now, is it just by pure coincidence that these themes are very near and dear to Johnny Mack? Or do they point to the problem of influence and socio-psychological contamination of the testimony by the interviewer? I have my opinion, but I'll let you decide for yourself. Now, these transcripts that we're going to be reading come from a few different TV sources, and these full interviews cannot be found anywhere. But Charlie Weiser has done a great job of putting them all together, so again, go and read them for yourself on $3 Kit. Now, since we went over Emma and Lisel's interview with Cynthia in the last video, let's see how different they are now. Now, Johnny Mack starts off by talking to Lisel, and he starts off by asking, "You've talked with the BBC people and with Nikki Carter here before, right?" "Yes." "But the experience is still fresh in your mind, is that right?" "Yes." "What time of day did this event occur?" "At break time." "Break time in the morning or lunch break?" "Morning." "Morning break. And what were you doing at the time?" "I was playing in the playground, and then we saw something silver, and then we quickly ran to the logs, and we saw a silver thing, and we saw a man standing next to it." "What did he look like?" "Well, he had big eyes, like pointed." "Maybe you could just draw the head. Do you like to draw?" Lisel says yes, and she starts drawing a face with large protruding eyes. She says, "I couldn't see his nose and his mouth, but his nose was pretty small." "So the eyes were large. Did you look into the eyes? Did you have a sense that you were..." Johnny then makes joining motions with his hands. "Johnny, the fuck are you doing here, Johnny? Are you trying to ask Lisel if this alien had telepathic powers?" "No, the alien was just incredibly handsome." Lisel says no, all we saw were his eyes. They were black. Johnny Mack then confirms black. But like, were they looking at you, or you at him? Seemed that he was looking at all of us. What was it? What did it feel like when he was looking at you? I felt scared. It felt scary. What was scary about it? Yo, Lisel, what the fuck was scary? If you think that the aliens are scary, think about the aliens until you realize the aliens are good. That's what Johnny Mack told Mr. Duke Close, right? Lisel says, "Well, I felt scared because I've never seen such a person like that before." "How do you feel now?" "I feel now that it was valuable for me to see, because aliens are something hardly anybody gets to see. And just to see something really strange and new makes me feel good." The recording then cuts here and jumps to Lisel saying what I thought was maybe the world's gonna end. Maybe they're telling us the world's gonna end. Moses. That came out of nowhere. We don't even know what Johnny Mack asked her, because they cut it out of the footage. But he goes on to say, "Why do you think they might want us to be scared?" Because maybe we don't look after the planet. The area properly? So clearly, the message from the alien was very clear. So Johnny then says, is this an idea that you have had before? That we don't look after the planet properly and the air? Or did this idea come to you when you had this experience? Lisel then starts thinking, and she says, "When I had this experience." And how did that idea come to you from this Now this is a little hard, but try to be with me here, okay? How did this idea come to you when you had this experience? Lisel then thinks hard, and she says, "I just felt all horrible inside." You felt horrible. At what point did you feel that? When you saw the craft or when you got home at night? Lisel cuts him off and says, "When I got home." You had that horrible feeling when you got home? Yes. And say more about that horrible feeling, Lisel. What was it like? It was like the world, all the trees will just go down, and there will be no air, and people will be dying. That's pretty fucking dark. Johnny asks, and those thoughts came to you. Had you had those thoughts before this experience? No. And how did those thoughts come to you? Did they come to you from the craft, or from... Lisel cuts Johnny off here and says, "From the man." The man. And the man. Did the man say these things to you? How did he get that across to you? Well, he never said anything. It's just that the face, the eyes, they looked horrible. And the eyes, the horrible look, had that information that you just told me. Yes. The recording cuts here again, and am I out of line by saying that Johnny Mack is guarding this conversation? Am I out of line saying that he quite clearly wants to hear Lisel say that the alien communicated to her telepathically? I don't know. Maybe. But why was this not mentioned 77 days ago? Is it because the interviewer is influencing this testimony? Maybe. Johnny then asks, what was the sense you got from those eyes? Lisel says he was interested. The recording then cuts here again and jumps to Johnny asking, you were saying that you thought maybe they were trying to tell us something, like about the future. Can you say more what your thought is or what it was like? The recording then cuts here and then jumps to Lisel saying, I felt sorry for him because I had a feeling that they had no love or caring. I think that in space there is no love and down here there is. Johnny then comforts her and says, there is love. Lisel then agrees and says yes. It appears that there's a cut here, and then Lisel is seen saying, they need love and they're trying to copy us. Johnny then asks her, is there anything we can do with that love as far as taking care of the earth that you had talked about? That the message that we don't take care of the earth. Lisel says no. Johnny asks, why not? Well, I think it's a fair time to say that before I started researching the story, I had no idea that any of this bullshit happened. As far as I knew, a fucking alien landed in Zimbabwe and 62 kids saw it. They then drew it, and now the world thinks that an alien landed in Zimbabwe. It's amazing how much of a different life it takes on when you have all of this information, all of this context, these interviews, the drawings, everything. To me, it just sounds like the biggest shitload of fuck I have ever heard in my life. And it would seem that Donna Bassett was correct about there being some sort of personal political agenda about the planet being threatened by ecological destruction. Which, hey, if Johnny Mack cared about the environment, that's great and all. But for fuck's sake, dude, surely there's other ways to get your message across. Something like this is gonna shape these kids' entire fucking lives. I mean, we read the adult testimony of Emily T., the girl who said that she got within arm's reach of one of these aliens, and that it sent her telegraphic images into her brain or whatever. No kid reported that at the time. I don't think she even reported it here, but now in her adult life, that is what she said happened. Now, do I have the right to say that she's lying? No, I don't have that right. But I think what I can say at least is that what she is saying now in her adult life is real to her. She probably believes that that happened, but everything we've looked at suggests otherwise. According to Lisel in this interview, she says that she believes in it because she saw it. The footage then cuts again, of course, and it comes back with Johnny Mack asking, would you like to see him again? Yes, you would like to see him again. Do you think that you might see him again? Huh? Lisel says, I don't know. Johnny asks, and if you saw him again, what would you do? I'll ask him some questions. What would you like to ask him? I'll ask him what he's doing on Earth, and what does he want with us? The footage then cuts here again and comes back with Johnny Mack asking, do you still get afraid at night? Lisel says yes, you do. And what do you was he going to say, and what do you fear? And he goes, what do you worry about now at night? I worry that the man is still looking at me, and he's going to kill me. Jesus fucking Christ. Fucking hell, Mystorian, that's not funny. Why are you laughing? Sorry, it's just a response. I laugh at most things, but not that you would know that. I just swear on the internet. But Johnny asks, does your mom know that you're worried? Did you tell her how worried you are? No. Most probably she won't believe me. Shame. Johnny asks, what would convince you that you're safe? I don't know. Well, Johnny, here's an idea. How about telling her that aliens have never come to Earth? Oh, well, that would probably not be in your best interest, since you are selling a book called Abductions, Human Encounters with Aliens. He then asks her what could make you feel less worried. The man. He's just always in my mind. He just won't go out of your mind. Yes. And how so? What would make you less worried? Is there something the man could do? Lisel then starts shaking her head. No. This is awfully dark and depressing. Alright, one more interview for the road and then fuck UFOs. Actually, I had a request to do Rendlesham Forest. Do you want me to do Rendlesham Forest? Let me know in the comments. I have a script I've been working on for 4 months. It's a fucking boring story. I don't know how to tell you in an exciting way that what these people saw was a fucking lighthouse. But I'll do it. I'll do Rendlesham Forest if you want me to. I am a sucker for punishment. So Johnny moves on to Emma and he asks her, have you ever seen a UFO? Emma says, I never have. No.
What?
This is 77 days after this happened.
What the fuck?
How has she never seen a UFO if she claimed, I saw a UFO? In Emma's original interview with Cynthia comes to her and says, your drawing was particularly interesting, In your drawing, you've got not only the main object, but you've got several others. Now, did you see these coming down? Emma says no, and she says, did you see them in the sky? And Emma says, I saw them disappear. They went up 1 meter from the ground, and they just disappeared. Now, yes, she says to Johnny 77 days later, I have never seen a UFO. Now, what the fuck does this mean? Is this, I've never seen a UFO before this, or I have never seen a UFO in my life up until this very point in time? Unclear. The recording then cuts here, but the footage comes back with Emma saying, it was scaring myself. Scary because you saw something yourself. Yes, I saw a little object hovering. It was quite big actually, and then there was little ones all around it, and it looked as if they were changing spaceships. So again, that is a little bit different from what was described before. Last time she said it lifted up 1 meter from the ground and then disappeared. Anyway, the footage cuts and comes back with Emma saying, I saw this person and it had big eyes. That's all I saw about it. Big eyes and a black body. Footage cuts and comes back again with Emma saying, but I was looking straight into his eyes. It cuts again, and Emma comes back and she's drawing a face with big eyes. And she says, I didn't see anything over there. Johnny then asks, no nose. You didn't see a nose. No. My heart kind of went faster and then slower, and then faster and then slower, all at the same time. Now was that was excitement? Yeah, excitement and scariness. And scary. And you said happy too. Yeah, happy because I saw something strange and something peculiar and something nobody had ever seen. Amazingly similar to what Lisel said. I'm happy because I've seen something weird that nobody else has ever seen. Johnny then, referencing her drawing, asks what was the effect to be looking at these eyes, or have these eyes looking at you? How did that affect you? How did that affect you? Now look man, I might be wrong about this, but I get the feeling that Johnny is trying to get this girl to say that the alien communicated to her telepathically. This is a very common alien abduction trope. Abductees like Betty and Barney Hill, for example, would say that the aliens don't speak with their mouths. They speak with their minds. They speak in your mind, or whatever the fuck. Now, I assume that is what Johnny wants to hear here, since he wrote books about alien abductions. So, the more similar reports that he can gather up, the stronger his case that these people, except Donna Bassett of course, really got abducted by aliens. But anyway, Emma said the effect it had on her was scary. Johnny then asks her, it was scary? Emma, if you think the aliens are scary, think about the aliens until you realize the aliens are good, okay? Yeah, this guy went from Johnny Cage to Mr. Mackey. What a downgrade. Anyway, the footage cuts here, and when it comes back, Emma is saying the other man. His eyes looked at me as if, and then she just starts staring, and then she says, I want you.
Oh boy.
Me? Well, what did I do?
I find you annoying.
And things like that. You know, stuff like that. Johnny then asks, I want to what? Emma says,
I wish to kill you and eat you. That would bring me immense satisfaction.
Emma says, I want you. I want you. I want you in what? Like I want you to come with me? Or Emma then cuts him off and says, yeah, I want you to come with me. I want you to come. Johnny then asks, did you go with him, do you think? Well, she's still here, Johnny. The fuck do you think? According to the transcript, it says that Emma looks confused here, of course, and she says, no, only my eyes went with him. And then she laughs. Your eyes went with him. And my feeling. Just the one feeling, not all of them. Johnny then asks, and your feeling went with him. So was there a part of you that wanted to go with him? Yeah. That felt like you were drawn to go with him? Yeah. Okay. Can you say what it felt like? Again, scary and a little excited. And a little I shouldn't go. Johnny then says, and yet I want to go. Emma says yeah. I'm gonna jump just a little bit ahead, the things I'm skipping are on the screen for you to read. But at some point, Emma says, I think they want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world and we mustn't get too technologed. The alien told you that, did it? We don't want humans to get too technologed. Yeah, if the alien said something like, be careful of AI, that shit's gonna get really bad in like 3 decades, I'd fucking believe these children saw an alien. But I also just need to mention that we have no idea what question prompted Emma to say this. That question has been lost to the void and cut out of the footage, so we will never know. But Johnny then asks her, what gave you that feeling? The aliens don't want us to get too technologed. Emma says, I don't know. Don't worry, Emma, Johnny will help you figure it out. Johnny then asks, but it came through to you when you were with the strange being. Yeah, when he was looking at me. When he was looking at you. There's then another suspicious cut, and then Johnny is asking, how did that get communicated to you? There it is. How did it get communicated to you? Emma says, I don't know, but Johnny says, but somehow it did. Yeah, it came through my head. Through your head. Did it, like, through words or my conscience, I think? This is a 6th grader, by the way. Johnny then asks, your what? See, Johnny doesn't even know this fucking word, and he's a doctor. Well, I mean, he has a doctorate in psychology and grifting. Emma says, my conscience told me. It came through, your conscience told you. Yeah, while I was in contact with the being, you mean, or when? While the being was looking at me. While it was looking at you, your conscience told you that. Had you been a person that thought a lot about what we're doing to the earth before that? No, only after this. Only after this. Another suspicious cut. Then Emma is saying, Mum tucks me in sometimes. She tucks you in. And do you go right to sleep, or do you kinda stay awake thinking for a while? I stay awake and I get scared with every single noise I hear. And when you hear a noise, what do you imagine it is? I think it's people coming into my house, wanting to steal me and steal all my toys and everything. Well, you do live in Southern Africa, so fair enough. That is quite a concern for all of us. Sorry, I was just checking if I locked the door, if I still had my keys in my pocket. But here's a quote from Johnny Mack's book. Emma saw a being at what she estimated to be a distance of 3 or 4 yards. This comes from Mack's book, Passport to the Cosmos. Now, we've covered basically everything that Emma has said, that's public at least, and she never mentioned this at all. So when the fuck did that happen? When was she within 3 or 4 yards of the alien? If she reported that in the interview, why is that not shown? If she was really that close, how could she say to Johnny Mack, I saw this person and it had big eyes. That's all I saw about it. Big eyes and a black body. And even though that is as fucking simple and basic as you can possibly explain something, it is still different from her first description of it. She said that it was very, very shiny black. What happened to the shiny? Where is the shiny now? So as you can see, I think most of us can agree now that there is a lot of bullshittery happening here. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to let the experts take it from here and wrap everything up. According to Gideon Reid of the Skeptical Inquirer again, John Mack described his interviews as a co-creative intuitive process, with the flowing together of consciousness of the 2 or more people in the room. To more skeptical ears, this sounds very much like an admission of suggestion and distortion. In an editorial titled Nuclear Weapons and the Dark Side of Humanity, by Johnny Mack in 1986, written before his interest in aliens, he pondered how his academic field could participate in changing the societal awareness about our precarious situation with nuclear weapons. In this editorial, Johnny says psychologists, psychiatrists, and psychoanalysts are exploring new ways of achieving this awareness and are participating increasingly in the political process itself. So clearly Johnny had an interest in this stuff, and good for him, it's not fucking terrible. But the kids never mentioned this shit before he got to the school, but as soon as he gets there, they are mentioning that the aliens are saying that we're fucking the planet up. Dr. Gilles Fernandez, the French gentleman and scholar, said it is therefore necessary to question whether, because of the strong cultural background of the investigators, it would not have contaminated the testimonies. It is particularly interesting, or revealing, to see how the protection and ecology of the planet appear in the testimonies of the children when Mack comes to question them. But when Cynthia Hahn came to question them, these themes were not brought up at all. Reading all of this, one can't help but wonder if Donna Bassett's comment about human experimentation might have been correct. If invoking aliens to get the message across was an effective new way of achieving this awareness, then so be it. I suppose so. It's not like Johnny Mack had shit intentions, but it's like Nickelback. They've sold 50 million records, but I don't like it. But what's done is done. Gideon Reid of the Skeptical Inquirer said, quote, Comparing the Ariel school story with today's conversation about UFO disclosure reveals a double standard. Passionate appeals are made for data to be released by the US government that might be evidence of world-changing discovery. Yet with the Ariel school, there's apparent satisfaction with incomplete data. There appears to be little curiosity about the Russian rocket or the entire conversations Mack had with the pupils that he interviewed, and there is no consideration of prosaic explanations for what the children saw. The stigma and ridicule that once surrounded extraordinary claims about UFOs and aliens has become a stigma against those asking for data. Journalists such as Stephen Greenstreet and investigator Mick West can attest to numerous examples where those claiming evidence of extraordinary things object angrily to being asked for supporting data. A shared element between Ariel School and Mack's work on abductions is Mack's conviction that his subjects were sincerely describing something authentic. Critics have pointed to the unproven concept of repressed memory, hypnosis's problems of distortion, cultural influences such as science fiction, and their diffusion through interpersonal and mass media channels. Now, because the Ariel children are clearly sincere in their responses, and no reasonable person would believe that they are lying, I feel personally attacked there, a similar reasoning is applied. What they described must be real. But what if their recollections are correct, but they were misperceiving a mundane stimulus? Exactly. What if? Nobody gives a fuck, because all anybody wants is aliens. Well, except you guys. Thank you for watching all of these videos. According to Charlie Weiser again, the witnesses, now as adults, have given interviews in recent years. Now, even though we've pointed out several examples already of these children and witnesses changing their story over time, the fact that some didn't is seen as good evidence that the kids didn't make the whole thing up. But once again, that misses the point. Kids, or anyone, can be truthful, but also mistaken. This thing at Ariel had profound effects on some of these children, who still believe and testify that they saw a UFO and aliens walking around in slow motion. Since then, they've no doubt gone over and over the details and talked to each other as well, and those details keep changing. 2 witnesses now as adults report that they got within arm's length of an alien, something neither them nor any other child reported at the time. Surely, this is not something that the other children on the playground would miss, seeing their classmates come face to face with an alien. Which just goes to show how malleable and how fallible memory is. In every other aspect of life, we know this is true. We forget things, we remember things incorrectly, and of course, we misperceive. When it comes to a UFO sighting from childhood, why would adult perception and memories be deemed accurate? Especially when we have video evidence that the sighting, as originally reported, was not remarkable, and that the witnesses' memories have changed. So, what did the kids see? Who knows? But if it was an alien, Cynthia and Johnny Mack really fucked this investigation up. Well done. The only thing that matters now is announcing the new critter's name. So we asked you guys for suggestions and we got a lot that we really liked, but we had to narrow it down to our top 4, because YouTube's polls are limited to 4 options. The winner, by a fucking landslide, is Macho Man Meowdy Savage.
The cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah, Macho Madness, yeah, has got more to offer. I am the cream in the World Wrestling Federation.
Wait a minute,
and there is no doubt about it. Yeah, you mean Gene Okerlund. You know that I'm the cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better than the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Now let me ask you this. Did I, maybe possibly, influence this result with all the Mega Powers references? Very possibly. Just how Cynthia and John influenced these children's testimonies. And what a roundabout way to debunk something. But I love the name Macho Man Meowdy Savage, so thanks for that.